Как дела, парни? Сегодня мы делаем специализированный билд на Сокола.
Hey, what is up, guys? That was my friend Stryler, and he was telling us in Sokol's home language that today we are doing a specialized one-down build. We're working with Sokol. Alright, let's go ahead and take a look at what we're going to be bringing along with us for this particular build. So, today I'm bringing the Valkyria rifle, the Tatanka submachine gun, the hockey stick melee, the throwing axe throwable. Of course, we're using the grinder perk deck, using the two-piece suit, and we're packing first aid kits. Let's go ahead and look at the weapon mods that we're using. So first with the Valkyria, really the only mods I have on it are the accuracy modifier and the solid stock. And then for the Tatanka, we have a concealment boost modifier, the auto fire mod, and the AK rubber grip. So pretty simplistic stuff. Alright, now let's go ahead and look at the skills that we're using. Of course we're using first aid kits, uppers ace, so that I can prevent myself from going down. Grinder can be a little finicky at times. The health regen is absolutely incredible with Grinder when you pair it with hostage taker. As you can see, I have that here. However, there are, sometimes enemies just sneak up on you and two-shot you and make you cry a little bit inside, but, so I gotta have uppers to prevent that from happening. So, I also picked up aggressive reload so that I could reload my Valkyria and the Tatanka a little bit faster, because both of those have a little bit of a slow reload time, so I just wanted to speed the process up. I had some basic skills in Enforcer, Scavenger, Resilience, just things of that nature, just some general quality of life build or skills. I also picked up Lock and Load Aced and Surefire Basic to give myself a few more rounds and even more reload time. I also picked up some stability from Steady Grip Aced. Of course, I picked up Shockproof, as I generally do, because I hate tasers with a passion. I also picked up crits and some suppressor skills to further assist with the damage output and the stability of these two weapons. As you'll see in the video, both of the weapons are incredibly stable, and along with the crits just do so much damage. It's incredible. I actually love this build so much, and I'm actually saving this one and using this one in the future. Maybe not for one-down builds, but just for general play. Alrighty. So now that we've talked about the build a little bit, let's go ahead and get to the best part of these videos, the actual gameplay. So one of the most interesting parts about this build, of course, is the fact that I'm using Grinder. And one of the nicer things about this, of course, Grinder has incredible health regen, and you'll see it in a minute paired with Hostage Taker, as I was saying in the intro, and it's absolutely fantastic. So, excuse me. I was actually genuinely impressed with how well this build performed in light of how much Grinder's been nerfed across its lifespan, especially in comparison to perk decks like Anarchist, who haven't had, who although function in a very similar manner, Grinder just isn't as strong as Anarchist is. But I found this build to be pretty useful, actually. It didn't do well under heavy stress and heavy fire, but if I could, keep myself behind cover and kind of in a safe location and, pick my spots carefully when to move and when not to move, it worked surprisingly well. Like I said, I really enjoyed it. And the crits from the Valkyria and the Tatanka, both of which have a pretty high rate of fire, it made them absolutely incredible tools for killing enemies. And of course, the hockey stick melee is clearly the best melee in this entire game. I mean, let's be honest. It makes the most satisfying sound. It looks funny when you swing it. It's fantastic. Make sure to whack this guy with the hockey stick real fast. Bam! Got him. I love the sound it makes so much. I don't know why. So, yeah, like I was saying, it's really easy to keep your health up with Grinder, especially if you have Hostage Taker. The reason that I packed the first aid kits was, again, like I said, to protect myself for when I would otherwise go down just by being two-shot by some schmuck or whatever, because that's all it takes. Even though Grinder does increase your health by a pretty high percentage, just due to the damage output on one down, it's still not enough to protect you for too terribly long of an amount of time. You can undergo depending on enemy distance and some other variables, you can take like 3, 4, maybe 5 shots before you're going to go down. Like I said, that's of course depending on distance and things like that. The farther away enemies are, it's not. You're going to be able to take more damage. But all in all, I felt like this build was pretty good. Yeah, like there, my distance was pretty far from the enemies right there, so I didn't go down even though I took a handful of shots. And that was something I tried to keep a better track of with this build in particular. You can also whack your converts to get some health back. And watch my health bar. Look at it. It's moving like Sonic right now. It's incredible. So that was a big plus of having converts on this build, is if enemies weren't around but you needed to get some health back pretty quickly, you could just start meleeing one of your converts. And I found that to be a pretty effective method for getting health back. Because as you can see, I was like below 10% health almost, or like somewhere in that area, 20% maybe. And I got it back in the span of like 5 to 6 seconds, maybe. It's pretty great. Using LBV might have been a bit more, I wouldn't say optimal necessarily, because even if you like get all the armor points that you possibly can and still get an LBV, you're not taking that many more shots. But basically anything you can do to increase your effective hit points with this build would work. So even though I did try to do a quote-unquote character theme build, I also did try to make this one just a good grinder build in general. I think I did a pretty good job. Like I said, I had a good time with it. Of course, I would have probably packed different, a different throwable and a different... I think I would have stuck with my primary and my secondary, or at least one of them, just because they were incredible killing tools. But I probably would have switched my throwable, and I probably would have changed my... Might have worn LBV instead. I'm not quite sure. It's hard to say. But honestly, I just thoroughly enjoyed using this build overall. Like I said. And now we finally get to the really good part. As you can see, I'm just like shredding through these enemies like nothing. The Tatanka's a little less ammo efficient than the Valkyria. Valkyria can manage its own ammo pretty well. The Tatanka has a little bit of a harder time doing it, but in conjunction, the two of them were pretty ammo efficient. I don't recall if I had to hit the ammo bag at all during this run. I placed it in the case that I did need to, but I don't know if I did or not. Just due to the nature of the high rate of fire of the Valkyria, is just extremely efficient to get crits, especially like via headshots and things like that. Body shots, it didn't matter nearly as much, but if you could aim for the head, of course, you know, you're just going to start shredding through enemies just due to the amount of DPS you're doing. So here, instead of hitting a first aid kit, I'm just going to whack on my convert a little bit. And across the span of about 10 seconds, I'm going to have all my health back. It's just so entertaining, honestly, to watch my health bar go from almost completely depleted to full. That guy was trying to poke his head through the wall. I guess he was trying to phase through. I have to be really careful when I poke out to like try to get converts or anything like that, because I don't have a way to, like I don't have stun grenades or anything like that on this particular loadout, so I don't have a way to cover myself like I normally would with Rogue or with Anarchist or something. So I just kind of have to pick my spots very carefully. Something that's like just, you know, incredibly important with this build, as I said. You know, just being able to pick your spots, when to move, when not to move. Something you should, you know, be trying to do in general, but other builds have a little more leniency. This one, however, the only leniency you get is how quickly you can regain your health if you manage to not die. So dealing with shields was a little difficult because I didn't have anything like shock and awe ace or any sort of piercing weapons, which is fine. It wasn't that big of a deal. You know, when shields are stationary, you can just zip behind them really quickly and get a few shots on them, so it's not that big of a deal. I was really glad I picked up the reloading skills for the Valkyria. Otherwise, it kind of had a bit of a pain in the butt reload speed. So those reload skills definitely helped in that regard, I felt like. Trying to get away from the flashbang right there. Also trying to make sure the coast is clear before I run out and start repairing the drill so I don't just get annihilated. The coast seemed relatively clear, though. I think the I'm not sure if the assault wave was actually in Fade, but it felt like it was starting to calm down at this specific point. I couldn't see many enemy spawns, and the shields, it was mostly shields that were surrounding me, so I assumed I was in some sort of Fade. Thankfully managed to get the drill repaired before I got smoked by that guy that snuck up behind me. My converts were distracting them a bit. I felt those were pretty important in this build, because not having enemies focus on me all the time was definitely a nice feature. As I said, like, with other builds, like rogue builds and anarchist builds, kingpin builds, and so on and so forth, all these things I mentioned that are important, like picking your spots and, you know, having converts distract enemies from shooting at you, are of course important, but those perk decks have a bit more, what I generally call cushion, to, you know, kind of back you up in the case that you make an error or you slip up or, you know, you just get caught with your pants down or whatever. And although Grinder's a really good perk deck, in the sense that it allows you to regen so much health so quickly in accordance with all the other health regen skills, the thing that it doesn't do well is offer you a lot of cushion in order to get out of sticky situations when your pants are caught down. Of course, if I had concussion grenades, it wouldn't have been that big of an issue, because I would have been able to... I would have just been able to throw down a concussion grenade and keep myself pretty clear in that regard. But, yeah, for the most part, I kind of was just forced to flitter first aid kits around and hope I didn't get downed. But I think I've only maybe used uppers aced like once up until this point. I really haven't had that many issues with going down. This run went really smoothly, like I was saying. I was just eviscerating enemies left and right. My converts were doing an excellent job, kind of attracting fire from enemies that were far off, so that way I wasn't just getting lit up from all sides. That was something I had noticed when I was trying to use this build without converts, was just that there was so much attention on me that even though I was killing enemies fast and I could regen health fast, I just wasn't, well, especially since I was lacking hostage taker as well. You know, I just wasn't able to do the amount of, the damage being dealt to me was too great in accordance with the amount of health I was regaining. So, I love how I just completely eviscerated everybody in that hallway. There's like 5 guys just rushing in through the door, and it just and everyone's dead. Crits and silencer skills with these weapons are just absolutely phenomenal. Of course, my boosted health allowed me to run through the gas without any problems. I laid the first aid kit down here in case there was a sniper. I was pretty sure the sniper wouldn't one-shot me, but, you know, just being on the safe side. Throwing axes are pretty dope. Of course, I want to be really careful right here because I know all it's going to take is one mess up, and getting shot just like 2 times is going to end me. So I'm using the first aid kits to cover me while I run over here. Thankfully, I was able to get behind cover before I went down. Uppers, of course, saving me. And that's all there was to it, guys. We'll take a quick look at my stats roll here. And I'm going to let Stryler take away the outro on this one. I'll catch you guys later.
И как всегда, большое спасибо за просмотр.